Hello, and welcome to the Prison Officer Podcast. This podcast is a place to talk about the forgotten cops in this country's jails, prisons, and correctional centers. A place for me to try to make sense of a career spent working inside the fence with some of the greatest people that nobody sees or recognizes for the important job they do. One of the things I've learned working in prison is just how much leadership matters. Whether it is the way you lead your team, your housing unit, or just an inmate work detail, leadership matters. What I was thinking about this week is how we as leaders handle our mistakes. Let me share a quote with you. I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. Do you recognize this quote? Yeah, it's NBA superstar Michael Jordan. You know, for most of us, these statistics would be traumatic. I know people who still cry in their beer over one missed championship shot in high school. But can you imagine missing 26? What is it that allows Michael Jordan and others to continue after making mistakes like this? So as I thought about this, I thought about what a mistake was. You know, it turns out the definition of a mistake is super simple. A mistake is to be wrong about something. All of us have been wrong at one time or another. All of us have made mistakes. Anyone that's a leader will make mistakes. In order to make decisions, you're going to have to make mistakes at some times. So I began to look at my life and analyze the mistakes I had made. Should I have attended college? Should I have tried harder to make the relationship last with my first fiancée? Should I have ever answered that ad for the position at Missouri State Pen or simply followed my heart and became a writer? I could have done all these things differently, but my choices were not mistakes because I never allowed them to stop me. I never allowed the lack of a degree to determine my ability to learn. A failed relationship didn't stop me from later meeting my wife of 27 years and raising 2 wonderful children with her. And taking a position for $14,000 a year that no one else at the time wanted. Well, that began a career path that led me here today with a lot of great prison stories to talk about. When I reflect on my life, I feel as if I jumped on a giant sled 51 years ago and just pushed off down some snowy hill in the country somewhere. As the months and then the years went by, the sled, it went faster. And then every moment picking up speed just faster and faster. And then wham, you'd hit a tree. A tree that was in the path of your life. It was all smooth running until life threw up some obstacle to try to get you off track. But I was always one just to keep riding and see where I ended up. One of my favorite cartoon strips is Calvin and Hobbes, and for those of you that have read Calvin and Hobbes, you might recognize the one cartoon where Calvin and Hobbes are sitting on a sled and they're going downhill. And the two faces on that one, I think, sum a lot of it up, how you look at life. Calvin has no fear. He's out front. He's got a grin from ear to ear. He's just going as fast as he can to the bottom. But Hobbes, on the other hand, he's on the back of the sled. He's placed his trust in Calvin, but he's clearly more trepidatious about the route his life has just taken. And if you've ever been on a sled, the ride doesn't stop when you hit a rough patch. It knocks you off balance. You lose the ability to steer and orient yourself for a bit. And if you give up at that moment, if you quit trying to get back on course, you'll just tumble down the hill, out of control, hitting more trees, more rough spots, and have no way to stop. But if you don't give up, if you fight the steering, fight to regain control of your sled, you will get back on course. You will start picking up speed again. You will become more skilled at avoiding the rough spots, the trees, the mistakes. You'll be able to see farther ahead, and you'll be able to change course and avoid some mistakes altogether. We know we're going to hit trees. We know we're going to make mistakes. But how we handle those mistakes is often the difference between good leaders and bad bosses. And I know you've all had both. So when you're in that position, how do you handle the mistakes others make? When it comes to correcting mistakes of my team, I like to picture all of us in one of those old Viking boats with oars on each side of the ship. Each person has an oar and they're straining and they're digging into each wave, driving the team forward across the ocean. But here's where the magic of the leadership lies. When I correct the mistake, do I yell at them? Do I ignore them or berate them? Do I tell them to stop rowing because they can't do it right? If I do that stuff, I've just lost a member of the team. And if I do it enough to everybody, everyone stops rowing, and then none of us are going anywhere. So when you do have members of your team make a mistake, remember, keep things in perspective. How big was this in the larger scheme of things? Don't let your frustration in those moments extinguish the spark, that you started in that person and that team member. Remember to correct the action, not the individual. You still need them on your team. And how do you deal with the mistakes you make as a leader? I think number one, the best thing you can do is to take ownership of that immediately. Do it swiftly, do it openly. Leaders don't let mistakes stop the momentum. If the mistakes stop the team's progress, then your vision just isn't large enough for them. Your mistake, when you're done and you've moved on, often after a mistake, you must regain the trust of your team. Apologize for your mistake sincerely and honestly. They still need you to lead. And remember, you can't ask them for help. That those team members, reach out to them. Don't forget, this is maybe a time. Successful leaders provide opportunities for others to succeed. And this may be one of those opportunities. So, when you hit one of those rough spots, show it to your team as a challenge, an obstacle, an opportunity, or just a correction in course. And then get back out in front, lead your team, as all of you do. Do whatever it takes to crawl over, go around, or push through on the path you set in front of them. I truly believe our mistakes only exist if we name them as mistakes and we let them stop us. I'm going to finish today with one more quote, and this is from Calvin and Hobbes. And it says, "The truth is, most of us find out where we are heading when we arrive." And I think there's a lot of truth to that. As long as you just keep going, get over the rough spots, don't let them stop you. Take your stumble, but keep moving. I think you'll find out where you're headed. So let's be careful out there behind those walls and fences, and remember to watch out for each other. Until next time, this is Mike Campbell, Prison Officer Podcast.